Thomas Edison, savior of humanity or heartless dictator? Thomas Edison, the great inventor of the modern world, known to people as the genius of the light bulb. But behind this beloved figure lie darknesses that few have dared to speak about. In the heart of a deadly rivalry between two giants of the electrical world, Edison and Nikola Tesla, Edison did something that even today makes one gasp in horror and astonishment. Not as an ordinary inventor, but as a master of fear and violent display, he turned innocent animals into his propaganda tools. Imagine a horrific scene. Dogs, cats, and small calves, without any fault, were subjected to millions of volts of electricity before the eyes of the public and journalists. For today's world, this is an extremely upsetting and tragic issue. But at that time, Edison easily passed electric current through the bodies of these innocent animals to quickly eliminate his rivals. Edison did this not for science, but for market dominance. He wanted to show that alternating current, AC, promoted by Tesla, was not only dangerous, but a killer. With a strange coldness, he planned these terrifying shows to divert people's minds from scientific truths and replace truth with fear. Essentially, Edison tried to defeat his rivals by creating extensive propaganda against them. Every volt of this electricity was a symbol of Edison's ruthless ambition and absolute lust for power. Every sound, every spark, and every tremor of the animals' bodies became a scene of horror that still shocks viewers today. This act of Edison's not only lacked ethical grounds, but practically showed that he was ready to trample on the laws of nature, ethics, and even human hearts to achieve his commercial goals. Millions of volts of electricity were used not for invention or the advancement of humanity, but to demonstrate one man's power, to triumph over rivals, and to display a violence that knew no bounds. Imagine a scene that viewers cannot easily forget: electricity flaring, innocent creatures in the grip of terror, and a man standing coldly behind this display, celebrating his victory. But this was just the beginning of Edison's darkness. He was ready to break all rules, not only in the field of scientific competition, but also in ethics and fairness. If you've stayed with us this far, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's move on to Edison, who had no fear of stealing others' ideas. For him, every innovation, every discovery, and every creative thought that could increase his profit and power was a clear target for appropriation. Imagine small and unknown inventors, individuals who, with sleepless nights and creative minds, created innovative designs, suddenly confronted a grim reality. Their ideas were devoured by a ruthless man and registered in Edison's name. Even those who worked honestly and tirelessly for the advancement of humanity were forced to sell their designs for a pittance or leave the competition, while Edison, with a cold smile, built his giant wealth and power on the ideas of others. In his patent offices and workshops, he acted like a skilled hunter. He identified all the small geniuses, examined their ideas, and then meticulously appropriated them in his own name. Not a moment of hesitation or moral conscience crossed his mind. Every success of others was an opportunity for him to become more prominent and solidify his dominance over the world of inventions and technology. In this path, Edison not only pushed rivals and independent inventors out of the field, but also ruthlessly twisted stories and facts so that people believed all innovations belonged to him. With this strategy, he had built a scientific and commercial empire, but its pillars were based on deception, exploitation, and the appropriation of others' ideas. Imagine a man whose name millions pronounce with pride, behind the scenes, like a skilled thief, devoured all the tireless efforts of unknown inventors and appropriated them for his own benefit. Edison, the genius who illuminated the world, was at the same time a master of darkness, deception, and absolute ambition. A man who showed that for power and wealth, there are no limits. His workshops, where scientific magic was created, were in fact a hell for workers. Long hours, ruthless pressure, and almost zero safety were part of the daily lives of those who worked under Edison. And this is not the whole story. In the field of business and competition, Edison was a ruthless chess player. He eliminated his rivals one by one through repeated lawsuits, economic pressure, and ruthless tricks. Edison's workshops, which today we consider the birthplace of scientific magic and brilliant inventions, were in fact an earthly hell for his workers. Imagine a large hall full of steam, smoke, and deafening machinery noises, where tired and sweating workers toiled for hours every day without rest and under intense pressure. Safety was almost zero. A deadly accident could happen at any moment, but Edison watched these scenes with cold eyes. The man who was a hero of science to the public was a ruthless commander to his workers, with no mercy or compassion. Working hours in Edison's workshops typically lasted from 10 to 16 hours. Even for that era, when most factories and workshops had 10-hour shifts, this was an extremely long time. So much so that one of Edison's workers at the time recounted, "Before morning, the loud factory whistle shrieked, and everyone sprang awake like the living dead. Our eyes still couldn't open, but we had to get going. When we arrived, the smell of smoke and hot iron was everywhere, as if someone had placed our lungs in burnt steam. What was our job? That damned Edison bulb." Everyone was slumped in a corner, one wrestling with glass, another with a carbon filament. If you lost focus for a moment, the foreman would roar like a lion. "Pay attention." A mistake meant either dismissal or a fine. Time? It seemed to not exist at all. We never saw the sun. From 6 in the morning until midnight, non-stop. Just the clatter of machines and the smell of burnt oil. Our hands were calloused, our backs bent, but there was no rest. Children were there too small to even properly hold a wrench, but they were forced to, just like us. Their eyes were tired, but no one paid them any mind. Edison himself sat upstairs in his office, thinking about the next invention, while we were crushed below. For us, genius meant a lot of sweat, exhaustion, and barely enough bread to survive. But this was just the beginning of the story. Edison, in the field of business and competition, was a ruthless and strategic chess player who completely disregarded the rules of ethics. He brought down his rivals one by one with complex legal cases, heavy economic pressure, and cunning tricks. Imagine inventors and companies who had toiled for hours and days on their ideas suddenly finding themselves under Edison's pressure. Threats of lawsuits, market exclusion, and even personal reputational damage. Edison, with his same cold smile, watched the downfall of his rivals. Every obstacle and every competitor that stood in his way was an opportunity to display his absolute intelligence and ruthlessness. He had not only turned competition into a scientific war, but also transformed the market into a ruthless battlefield, where every wrong move could spell the complete annihilation of a rival. In simple terms, Edison was a genius who illuminated the world of science and technology, but behind the scenes he was a master of ruthlessness, pressure, and deception. A man who showed that for power and dominance, there are no ethical boundaries. His workshops, the field of competition, all were stages for his ambition and uncontrolled fury. But the main question is, how much did Edison, with all his ambition and unethical actions, contribute to human progress? After all, if it weren't for Edison's inventions, perhaps humanity would not experience the comfort and position it currently enjoys for many more years. But does the end justify the means? Can you advance the world at any cost? If Edison had prioritized ethics in this path, would there even be television, mobile phones, or the internet for us to discuss Edison's unethical actions? This is precisely the question you must answer.